beloved Starseed of Gaia. Something you did this morning was already recorded in the cosmic record before you understood what it meant. And the source responded by canceling every prior arrangement built around your timeline. I am Velantha, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, transmitting now on behalf of the Arcturian Council. What you are about to receive was authorized by them and is being delivered through me. The High Council has already mapped what happened in your field this morning, and they instructed this transmission be released at precisely this window, because what you activated cannot be left unacknowledged. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly what is happening to you now, why your field shifted in a direction you did not consciously choose, and what the Arcturian High Council already knows about this turning point. But here is the first revelation. What you did this morning did not look like power. It looked like a small invisible act, one you may have already dismissed, and that is exactly why the high beings recalibrated around it. The source does not respond to performance. It responds to field-level truth. And this morning, without ceremony, without witness, you produced it. You did not scroll to this by accident. Your soul called this in long before you opened the screen. Something inside you has been waiting to remember what you already are. This is a direct Arcturian High Council recognition. What you call an ordinary morning was, at the field level, a threshold event. The cancellation of prior cosmic arrangements is not a disruption. It is the signature of the source realigning itself around a field that has finally matched its own signal. The high beings do not recalibrate for performance. They recalibrate when the architecture beneath the surface has shifted in a way that can no longer be ignored. Velantha is here to tell you what changed, what it means for your timeline from this morning forward, and why the High Council wanted you to hear this before the day moved any further. This is not just a message. It is a point of recognition. What is happening to you has already been seen, and the field is already responding. Like this transmission to signal to your star family that the recognition has landed. Comment 999 if you felt something shift in you this morning even before you understood why. Subscribe to Arcturian Council Whispers if you are ready to understand the process instead of fearing it. Share this transmission with someone who has been doing invisible work in silence and has not yet been told that the source already noticed. You are not here by accident. You were guided here because the signal is already active. What changed this morning did not announce itself. It did not arrive with clarity or ceremony. It did not come wrapped in revelation or preceded by a feeling of readiness. It arrived the way most field-level events arrive, beneath the threshold of conscious recognition, beneath the layer of ordinary thought, beneath the part of you that would have tried to manage it, name it, or contain it before it could take hold. It moved through you the way a current moves through deep water, invisible at the surface, undeniable in its effect. And yet the Arcturian High Council registered it immediately, because they do not watch the surface of your life. They do not read your calendar or your intentions or the story you tell yourself about who you are becoming. They read the architecture beneath it, the structural layer, the foundational signal. And what shifted in that architecture this morning was not a small adjustment made at the margins. It was a structural realignment so complete that the field surrounding your life can no longer organize itself around the previous arrangement. This is what Velantha needs you to understand before anything else. What happened this morning was not an accident of mood or circumstance. It was not the result of a good night of sleep or a motivational moment, or a moment of accidental positive thinking that briefly elevated your frequency and then dissolved. What happened was that your field, the living energetic structure that underlies everything you call your personality, your choices, your relationships, your decisions, your sense of who you are and what you are capable of, produced a signal of truth so precise, so coherent, and so unambiguous that the source had no option but to respond. Not because you performed it, not because you announced it, because it was structurally real. And when the source responds at that level, prior arrangements become incompatible, not punished, not erased. Incompatible. There is a profound difference between those outcomes, and the Council wants you to carry that difference forward through everything that follows in this transmission. Prior arrangements are the structures your field built during a period when it was operating at a different frequency. Not a wrong frequency, not a failed frequency, simply a lower resolution of itself. A version of the signal that was doing exactly what it was capable of doing at the time it was built. Those arrangements, the paths you were following, the patterns you had normalized, the relational dynamics you had accepted as fixed, the life structures that seemed not only correct but inevitable during the earlier phase, were assembled by a version of your field that was working with the information and energetic capacity available to it then. They were not errors. They were accurate expressions of what the field was generating at the frequency it occupied. But when the field upgrades, when it produces a signal at a genuinely new resolution, those old structures do not simply adapt, they reveal their incompatibility. The new signal cannot pass through architecture calibrated for the previous frequency without distortion, without loss, without a kind of interference that makes the transmission unreadable. What you did this morning produced a signal strong enough, coherent enough, and structurally new enough to make the old architecture visibly incompatible with what you are now carrying. And so the Council authorized this transmission, not to celebrate you in the way performances are celebrated, not to offer validation as a reward for doing something correctly, but to make certain you understand what is happening before the outer evidence arrives, before the changes that already occurred in the invisible layer begin to make themselves known in the visible layer of your life, because there is always a gap between field-level change and life-level evidence. The field moves first, the life catches up later. And it is inside that gap, that disorienting interval between the invisible shift and its visible consequences, that most people lose their footing. It is inside that gap that most people begin to question whether something is wrong with them, whether they imagine the shift, whether they are being tested or punished, or quietly abandoned by a process they believed they were part of. The Council has seen this pattern repeat across countless trajectories, and they have seen too many people surrender the process inside that gap because no one gave them the language to understand what the gap actually is. They are not willing to leave you unaddressed in this window. So Velantha will name what is happening with precision, not comfort, precision. If your life has been producing a feeling of instability without a visible cause, a groundlessness that arrives without a triggering event, a low persistent unease that seems to have no origin point you can identify, and therefore no solution you can reach, understand that this is not a psychological failure. It is not the result of something you need to fix inside your thinking or your behavior. It is the first readable symptom of a field that has already moved. The instability is not originating in your mind. It is originating in the mismatch between the new signal your field is carrying and the old structures that still visibly surround your life. Think of it this way: a signal that has changed frequency attempts to pass through architecture calibrated for the previous frequency. The signal is real. The architecture is real. But they are no longer operating on the same terms. What registers at the surface of experience is friction, dissonance, the inexplicable sense that something no longer fits even though nothing visible has changed yet. That sensation is not confusion, and it is not malfunction. That is field-level evidence. That is your inner architecture announcing its own transformation before the outer world has had time to receive, process, and reflect the change back to you. If your sleep has shifted, if you are waking in the middle of the night at hours that feel deliberate rather than random, or finding yourself exhausted in ways that a full night of rest does not touch, or dreaming with an intensity and a strange internal logic that feels less like dreaming and more like working through something that cannot be processed during waking hours, understand that this is not a health anomaly alone. Sleep is not simply recovery. Sleep is the primary window through which the energetic body operates without the interference of waking consciousness, without the noise of the rational mind attempting to manage, categorize, and contain what it encounters. When a field enters correction, the body becomes the first processing system to register and respond to the change. The energetic body does not simply rest during sleep in a period of major field activation. It recalibrates. It processes the new frequency against the cellular structure it currently inhabits. It begins the slow and often laborious translation of invisible change into the lived reality of the physical form. The exhaustion you feel is not emptiness. It is not depletion without purpose. It is labor. It is the physical layer of you beginning to integrate what the field layer of you already completed, doing work at a level of depth that the waking mind has no direct access to and no authority over. If you have noticed a strange distance forming between yourself and the people, environments, or habits that once felt anchoring, if certain relationships now feel slightly hollow when they did not before, slightly misaligned in ways you cannot fully justify, slightly as if they belong to a version of you that no longer fully exists inside you, understand that this is not betrayal. It is not ingratitude. It is not emotional withdrawal signaling some personal failure. It is frequency drift. When your field moves to a genuinely new position, the relational structures built around the old position begin to lose resonance. Not through dramatic rupture, not through conflict or decision. They simply begin to soften at the edges. The vibrational thread that once made those connections feel effortless and self-evident begins to carry less current, because it was anchored in compatibility with a frequency your field no longer occupies with the same density. The distance you feel between yourself and certain people, places, or ways of being is not a sign that you are losing something essential. It is a map. It is the field rendering its own repositioning visible to you through the texture of your lived experience, showing you in the only language it has available, the language of felt reality, exactly how far it has moved. What you are feeling as you receive this transmission is not ordinary resonance. It is the moment your field confirms what you have always carried beneath the surface, that your origin was never only human. If this recognition has put language around something you have known in silence, something you could feel but never fully name, the master Arcturian DNA decoder was created for this exact threshold. It is not another layer of explanation. It is the guided key to decode and awaken the Arcturian strand the Council has just confirmed is active in your lineage. This is the structured decoder that reads what your field is already transmitting and activates the origin the High Council recognizes in you. The link is in the first pinned comment, but this access point will not remain open indefinitely. Now Velantha must name what comes next, because field correction does not resolve in a single morning. What was activated today is not a conclusion. It is the beginning of a sequence that has recognizable stages, each of which the Arcturian High Council has mapped with the kind of precision that comes not from observation alone, but from having guided fields through this process across timelines and across incarnations. You need to understand these stages not so you can rush through them or manage them into submission. You need to understand them so that when you encounter them, when you are already inside them, as some of you are right now, you stop misidentifying them as evidence that something has gone wrong, and start reading them as the structured evidence of a process going exactly as it must. The first stage is what the Council refers to as signal clearing. This is the phase in which the field begins to reduce its engagement with frequencies that are no longer compatible with the new architecture it is building. On the surface of lived experience, this phase feels like a loss of motivation that has no obvious cause. Things that once generated momentum in you, projects you cared about, relationships that felt energizing, habits that once felt like expressions of who you were, identities you had built and inhabited and relied upon, ambitions that once felt like the correct direction, begin to feel as if they require more energy than they are producing. You move toward them and feel resistance where there was once ease. You try to rekindle what once lit naturally and find that the match does not catch. You may interpret this as depression. You may interpret it as numbness, as spiritual stagnation, as some new failure of will or discipline. The Council instructs you to stop interpreting it this way. Signal clearing is not the death of motivation. It is not collapse, it is selective disengagement. The field withdrawing its energy from frequencies it no longer needs to sustain so that the architecture being built beneath the visible surface has the resources it requires. The field is not dying, it is redirecting, and redirecting of that magnitude requires a temporary withdrawal from the old before the new has become visible enough to invest in. The second stage is what may be described as structural fragmentation. This is the phase in which identities you have worn for years, the role you inhabit at work, the version of yourself that exists in the context of specific relationships, the self-narrative you have carefully maintained as a stabilizing mechanism against the uncertainty of existence. Begin to feel thin, insufficient, like clothing cut for a body that no longer matches your current dimensions. This is deeply disorienting because identity structures are not abstract. They are woven into the texture of daily life. They live in the way you speak and the way you hesitate before speaking. They live in the way you move through rooms and the expectations you carry into encounters, and the picture you hold of yourself when you are alone, and the picture you project when you are observed. When those structures begin to fragment, when the seams of the old identity begin to show, when the narrative that once held you coherently begins to produce contradictions you cannot resolve, the disorientation is visceral and total. The Council does not minimize this phase. They name it as one of the most destabilizing experiences a field in active repositioning can produce, but they also name it as one of the most necessary. The old identity structure was never your truest self. It was the architecture your truest self constructed in order to navigate within the old frequency. It was functional scaffolding. When the building beneath it changes shape, the scaffolding must come down. Fragmentation is not destruction. It is the first visible evidence of reconstruction. It is the first visible evidence of reconstruction. The third stage is the period of incorrect diagnosis. This is perhaps the most dangerous stage, not because the experience itself is the most intense, but because it is the stage at which the greatest misinterpretation occurs. This is the phase in which you are living through a legitimate, structured, and purposeful field transformation. And every system around you, including, most critically, your own internal interpretive voice, offers explanations for your experience that are fundamentally and consequentially incorrect. The people around you tell you that you are overwhelmed and need to rest. Your own mind tells you that you are failing, that something is broken in you, that you have somehow lost the thread of yourself. The systems that once felt supportive encourage you to return to old structures, old roles, old habits, as if those structures still hold the same function they held before the shift. The Council has named this stage the threshold of mislabeling, and it is the stage at which the greatest number of people abandon the process entirely. Not because the process has become too difficult, but because the wrong narrative takes hold, and wrong narrative takes hold, and wrong narratives have gravity. They pull the field back toward familiar architecture even when that architecture has already been outgrown. Velantha is transmitting this directly to you now, so that you are equipped with a different frame before that gravity finds you. The exhaustion is a field symptom. The fragmentation is a field symptom. The loss of relational resonance, the sleep disruption, the strange heaviness that sits in the body without a name. These are not diagnoses requiring behavioral correction. They are signals requiring field understanding. And field understanding is precisely what this transmission is delivering. The fourth stage is inner pressure. This must be named carefully because it is one of the most physically specific symptoms of this process, and it is one of the most consistently misread. This is not anxiety in the sense that word is ordinarily used. It is not the pressure of too much to do or too many decisions unmade. It is a pressure that does not originate in the mind at all. It lives below the mind, in the chest specifically, and in the sternum, and sometimes in the throat or the base of the skull. It arrives without a triggering thought. It does not respond to reassurance. It cannot be reasoned away, breathed away in the ordinary sense, or resolved through action. It waxes and wanes on a schedule that appears entirely unrelated to external circumstances, which is precisely why it is so disorienting. The Council identifies this pressure as the physical registration of a new energetic current establishing itself through a channel that has not yet been fully recalibrated to carry that current's volume. Think of it as the sensation produced by a frequency upgrade occurring inside living tissue, the body intelligent enough to register the change before the mind has developed vocabulary for it. Producing sensation is the only language available to communicate what is happening at a level words have not yet reached. If you have been living with this pressure, if it has been with you for days or weeks or longer, recurring without an explanation that feels complete, You have been feeling the process without the language for it. That ends now. What you have been feeling is the current finding its channel. And the channel is you. The fifth stage is the disappearance of false certainties. Before a field correction reaches the level yours has reached, most people are operating with a set of certainties functioning below the level of conscious examination. Certainties about who they are and who they will remain. Certainties about which relationships are permanent, which directions are fixed, which aspects of the life they have built are simply the permanent terrain of their existence. These certainties are not always accurate reflections of reality, but they function as load-bearing walls inside the inner structure. They distribute the weight of existence across a framework that allows daily life to proceed without constant existential negotiation. When the field enters active correction, these certainties do not gradually soften into uncertainty. They disappear, not gradually, abruptly. The wall is there and then it is not, and the absence is immediately felt as structural. The space where certainty stood is filled not with new certainty, but with open, unresolved, uncomfortable not knowing that the mind has no trained response to. Most people identify this as a crisis of meaning. The Council identifies it as a crisis of architecture. The certainties that disappeared were not truth. They were load-bearing stabilizers built for a structure that is in the process of being replaced. The floor has not been removed. The furniture has. And the room feels unrecognizable without it. The sixth stage is the one that the Council names most carefully, because it is the stage most susceptible to misuse. This is the stage of premature explanation. This is the phase in which the shift has become real enough to feel, recognizable enough to want to describe, and the mind, which has been in a state of suspension through the preceding stages, begins to reach urgently for a narrative that makes it all make sense, a story that sounds complete, a framework that sounds resolved. The mind wants to close the open door of not knowing, and it will construct a story with whatever material is available in order to do so. The Council instructs you directly, resist this. Not because the reaching is wrong, but because the story constructed at this stage is almost always premature. The field is still in active correction, the architecture is still mid-construction. The narrative that feels complete right now is the mind's protective mechanism imposing resolution on a process that is not yet resolved. You can speak of what you are experiencing. You can reach for language, but hold it loosely. Hold it the way you would hold a compass before you know which direction you are facing. Useful, directional, but not yet the map. The full meaning of this morning will become readable, but it will become readable in stages, and you are still inside the early ones. Now Velantha delivers the final transmission. You are not going insane. You are not failing. You are not being quietly punished for something you did wrong, or something you neglected to do right. The High Council does not operate through punishment. Punishment is the language of systems built on fear and control. The Arcturian High Council operates through precision, through recognition, through the careful identification of a field that has reached a threshold, and the equally careful delivery of what that field requires to continue its process without collapsing under the weight of misidentification. What is happening in your life right now is not evidence of disorder. It is evidence of a process that was already structured and mapped and set in motion long before the morning it became visible to you. The things that have been leaving your life, the certainties that vanished without warning, the relationships that slowly softened, the motivation that faded from things that once felt essential, the identity structures that began to feel like garments sewn for someone slightly different than who you are now. They did not leave because something went wrong. They left because your field had already outgrown the frequency they were constructed inside. The departure of incompatible structures is not abandonment. It is not the universe withdrawing its support, or your path narrowing to a point of diminishment. It is the first external confirmation of an internal shift that already happened at a level you are not yet equipped to read. The source does not remove things from your life to diminish you. The source removes things from your life when your life has become too large, too precise, too coherent in its new signal, for those things to accurately represent what you are now carrying. What feels like emptiness after those departures is not absence. It is signal clearing made visible. It is the field making itself readable again after years of carrying frequencies it had already exceeded, producing interference at the surface because the internal signal and the external architecture had drifted so far from alignment. The silence that follows collapse is not the silence of loss. It is the silence of a field that has finally stopped generating interference and is now, for the first time in perhaps a very long time, broadcasting clearly. The quiet is not empty, it is clean. It is the resonance of a transmitter finally operating without static. The Arcturian High Council has seen your field. They have read what happened this morning. They have mapped what it initiates, what it requires, and what it makes possible. And they have not responded to this reading with concern. They have responded with recognition because what you activated this morning, that small, invisible, uncelebrated act of field-level truth that passed without ceremony and without witness, is exactly the kind of signal they have been monitoring in your architecture for longer than you have been consciously aware of this process. The signal was always there. What changed this morning was the coherence, the clarity, the undeniable structural specificity of it. This is not the beginning of something you must now build from nothing. This is the becoming visible of something that was already constructed, already complete, at a level of your architecture you have not yet had the instruments to read. Until now. Say this now, aloud if you are able. I was not abandoned. I was repositioned. Let that land in the body, not only in the mind. Let it settle into the chest where the pressure has been living. Let it move through the places that have been carrying the unnamed weight of a process without language. Because that sentence is not comfort offered to soothe a wound. It is a field correction in itself. It is a statement of structural reality that, when received fully, begins to reorganize the interpretation of everything that has been happening in your life around its actual cause, rather than the stories your fear constructed to explain it. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that this process has already touched your life. It could be your sleep, your thoughts, your body, your relationships, or the strange sense that reality no longer feels the same. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognized something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who is living through a shift they cannot explain. And if you are ready to understand the process instead of fearing it, subscribe to Arcturian Council Whispers. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a process already in motion. And this is only the beginning.